Hello, guys. Today we will return to talk about mysteries, in this case, however, about a recent mystery, I dare say current, which remains full of questions. It is the Tromp case, a wealthy Australian family, fallen victim to someone or something that has completely changed their existence. This is not a legend. The facts I will tell you about are real and documented. The problem is that it is unknown what caused them, and so far no one has been able to shed light on the matter. However, there are people who could do it, but so far they have refused to speak. That is, the same members of the Tromp family. So here is the mysterious and terrible case of the Tromp family. Let's start by briefly talking about this family, composed of the father Mark Tromp, the mother Giacoba, and their 3 children, Mitchell, Rihanna, and Ella. A family, as we have said, well off, part of the high society of Victoria, a model family. According to their neighbors, Mark had had enormous success with his farming business, so everyone enjoyed an enviable standard of living, not just from an economic point of view. On the morning of August 29, the Mark and his family set off for a car trip to South Wales. Initially, the press reported that the trip was simply a vacation, but subsequent investigations partially disproved this fact. There were too many things that didn't add up. First and foremost, the fact that none of the family members had brought their cell phones to receive Mitchell's call and credit cards. The first to be encountered was Mitchell, who, according to the testimonies that could be collected, left the family car 170 kilometers from his home. He was found in a state of shock, walking the streets of a small village. His mental state was so alarming that it prompted the people who found him to call the police. Rihanna was the second family member found in a state of post-traumatic shock, curled up in a fetal position in a small trailer of a car showroom several kilometers away from where Mitchell was found. She, too, had abandoned the car. The police were looking for her because a few hours earlier, she and her sister had tried to steal a car. But why would the 2 well-off kids have to do it? What was the real reason? In the end, she managed to get hold of a car and return to Melbourne. She too, however, a victim of the terrible experience and in a state of shock. Mitchell and Rihanna were subjected to a urine test to determine if they were under the influence of drugs, but the results were negative. What had caused that state of shock? What had the 2 young people seen? The mother, Giacoba, was found shortly after her 2 children in a nearby town, also a victim of post-traumatic shock. The problem is that currently, her psychological problems are not limited to this. The experience for her was so terrible that it left her with psychological consequences. In fact, she spent a long time in a psychiatric ward. Mark was the last to be found alone and near an airport. His behavior was typical of a person on the run. But what was he running from? All that's left is to ask questions. First of all, why did the family decide to undertake that journey? What prompted them to leave their home without taking their cell phones or credit cards with them? Let's reflect for a moment on this fact. We know perfectly well that cell phones are easily traceable, and that using a credit card anywhere in the world allows us to locate our position. What is the reason they wanted to cover their tracks? In numerous subsequent interviews, Mark Tromp consistently refused to provide a logical explanation for the events. The only thing he said in a press conference he gave to journalists was to leave him alone and respect the wishes of all members of his family. At this point, it's your turn. What do you think might have happened to this family? Why did they run away, and why don't they want to talk about the events they were involved in now? Is it possible that they are keeping silent out of fear? Let me know in a comment. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, or share it with your friends. Greetings and see you in the next video of the unexplainable.